Okay. Whew. Um. Um. Whew. I can't breathe. Hold on. Give me a second. Oh. Anyways. Whew. Okay. Now, I don't know where to begin with this one. I never know where to begin and end, but this one specifically is very strange to me because, now, I don't know what to make of what happened because, all right, let me just throw it out there. Normally, I don't have nightmares. Or, well, I do, but they don't, like, affect me on any level. Because I can control what I can control what's going on. But I literally just woke up. Like, I woke up, got up, peed, let the dog out, and came back, laid on the bed, and grabbed the tablet and did this. Woke up. Like, my eyes are still kind of glossed over. Now, I wasn't necessarily affected by the nightmare itself, but it was on a different level. Like, I literally think this was sent to me by God. Okay. Not in the... we're talking like the biblical, like, your young men will have visions, your old men will have dreams kind of a deal. Okay. Now, this dream, this nightmare, like I said, I wasn't affected by it necessarily. As in, I don't know how to word it. It was more of, I had this emotional reaction to it. Where it was more than just what was happening. Like, it wasn't just, there was something happening in the dream and I couldn't control it, and it's like, oh my God, I fear for my own existence. It wasn't something like that. It was more of, there was something happened to someone who I don't know if I want to mention the name, because it's a well-known political figure. And just for the sake of probably having to post this to anywhere, I don't know if I want to say the name of the person, just because it was so fucked up. And it was more of not what I was seeing, but more of, like, I actually had a moment of compassion for this guy, even though in the dream I made reference to he got what he deserved, as in he was basically a son of a bitch. I mean, he's a son of a bitch. He's a legitimate son of a bitch, and he got what he deserved, even though what he deserved was gruesome. It was basically a murder mystery detective kind of. Actually, it was kind of like L.A. Noire. In a way. Like, I don't know if you played that, but essentially it's, imagine GTA. Actually, I'm going to try to send you that game for the 360. And what you do is you go and you find clues, and then you interrogate people. And sometimes you have different options. Sometimes you can be, really kind, like, oh, I'm sorry your husband died, and blah, blah, blah. And that's the right course. And other times you're like, I can't believe you killed your husband. And you give these different answers, and you get these different replies, and you have to try to figure out who did what. It's actually a really cool game. And it was similar to that. Now, I don't remember most of the dream. But this famous, I'll say very famous, individual came up missing for at least a month, maybe more. And his mother, which I actually think is still alive in real life, if I'm not mistaken, was going nuts. She was going on TV, and she was like, "Oh, well, where's my son?" Basically, everybody knew he had been captured. He had been taken, basically, like in a van, carted away, kind of thing. And this was like like Saw. Imagine Saw, the movies, I should say. And it wasn't so much like the traps or any of that stuff, but it was more like the Jigsaw part of it, where it's like he was held hostage and tortured. And we're not talking just like, jamming, electrodes in his testicles. We're not talking basic cutesy little things. We're talking legitimately trying to make him suffer. And the visuals that I saw, they were disturbing. But like, I wasn't affected by that. Anyways, let me explain. So, what happened was they found the body months later, whatever it was. And as details started to leak out, this was beyond gruesome. Like, there wasn't a single drop of blood. And there were other distinguishing characteristics of this particular, like, this wasn't like a copycat murder. There were certain things that just you don't really see, and nobody could understand why. Well, the mothers was going nuts and blah blah blah. Well, anyways, for some reason, I was there. There's the main investigator and like his sidekick and the mother. And for some reason, I don't know why I was there, but for some reason, because I was actually visualizing this. The mother was threatening to sue everybody and blah blah blah, and she's all, she's just completely distraught. Well, for some reason they allowed her to come in and view the body, like in the like in the what do you call it, like in the morgue. And I think I was there almost as like a reporter kind of a deal. Like I was being given access to see like what happened, and like basically you see the body on the slab, they pull it back, and what I saw was like just completely fucked up. The face was oddly not really even damaged all that much. There was a few issues here or there where like certain things were like eye removed kind of a deal. But like the face was almost pristine, considering there was no blood. And as I'm watching this, and it's just detail after detail is rushing like out, like he's explaining to the mother, like, this is a weird situation. This isn't something you just sue over. This isn't something something happened, something really nasty happened, and there's something. It was done. I don't want to say like Satan, but it was like evil did this. It was something evil did this. Not necessarily even a person necessarily, but an evil force did this. Or like an evil person who's being controlled by something. Now again, not necessarily demon possession per se, but something was fucked up. This wasn't your average murder. This wasn't your average torture. This was deliberate to the point where he was made to suffer like every second that he was, and they kept him alive. I gleaned that from what I was watching, from what I was seeing as they were doing the investigation. That all these things that happened were done to him purposely. Now he had these 3 stripes on his arms, and these like his wrists were like all bruised up and shit. And he had these Y incisions on his hands, like from his pinky to his, from the pinky to the index finger. It came down to a Y, and then went straight down, and then went, when it got to the wrist, went to another Y. And as they were looking at it, like, because people couldn't understand, no one could understand, like, what exactly had all been done, because it was just so much reconstructive insanity that took place. Well, all of a sudden, as they were, because they were moving the body, they're moving the arms and like turning the head and kind of just showing the different things. The hand broke off. Not broke off, like popped out of place along these incisions, and you could clearly see that basically he had been taxidermied at the end. And whatever they did to like harden, like, and put the all the bones were like fused together somehow. I don't know, like if it was some sort of like, I don't know what exactly it was. Maybe it was like some sort of like plaster or something that, like, it kept the fingers like where they were in place. And what happened was the bones, and some of the bones were not the same bones that were supposed to be there. Like some, like other parts of the body were like moved around. The wrist came down into like this point, almost like a sharp poker kind of a thing. The only I could describe, like imagine like a spear, like if you chiseled off a spear. So it wasn't obviously his wrist, it was something attached to his wrist, but it was bone, and it had these grooves in it so that the two parts of the hand could like slide on, almost like the Joy-Con grips of the Nintendo Switch, where they literally just click and click on. I don't know if that's where it came from in my mind, but that's kind of exactly what it was. And then when you take those off, you're left with this like, it was really just fucked up. I mean, this was like the most fucked up dream I've ever had. And now I don't know if it was on the other hand, but it was the right hand specifically. And he had these stripes, these 3 stripes going down his arm. And as this was going on, I could literally picture him. I could picture, when I saw it, I could picture everything. Like, I had all the details. And essentially, he had been bound by his wrists with, like, chains. And these metal rods, these just silver metal rods. There was, like, 3 of them. Like, one over the shoulder blade, all the way down his arm to his wrist. Another one on the other side, and one on the underside. And each one of the rods had been heated to the point where it melted the skin. And the stripes you're seeing is like the skin just being melted into like the meat. Just melting the meat. Like he was branded basically. And almost like a deranged Stars and Stripes sort of way. Almost like a mockery kind of a deal. And I could literally picture the individual, the real life individual, hanging there, like screaming as this was happening, and the person was just admiring their work and enjoying the fact that they were making him suffer. And it was one of those things that he is such an asshole, he's such a political asshole that he deserved what he got. And I actually said that, and I was like, because the investigators were trying to figure it out, and like I literally saw it in my mind what was going on, what had happened, and I was informing them, okay, this is, he was taxidermied, one, and then he had been obviously clearly tortured, and that he was completely alive during this whole thing, because I literally saw it in my head. And you had to picture it visually. You basically had to be there. Like me explaining it, like I am right now, is not doing the emotional weight justice, because it's like part of me wants to hate this guy for what he's about to do. He's going to do something specifically, and again, I don't want to mention the name because this is fucked up. I mean, it was extremely fucked up. Now, I don't get rattled and shit, like in general, especially when I'm dreaming. Like, I've had nightmares before. Like, I've had end time things before. Like, I had this one really cool end times dream where the rapture happened, and this was like a 7-year or even mid-trib, whatever. And for some reason, my entire family was still there. Like, it wasn't that we weren't saved, it was that God wanted us to be there, to witness this. Like, he's like, okay, you guys are saved, but I want you here to witness this. Like, I was there to have the dream, essentially, to maybe even share the dream with someone, I don't know. And I'll never forget it, because what happened, it was, I think it was in the fall, give or take. It was like maybe August, late August, September-ish, maybe. Whatever. It was getting dark early. So it was probably around 7, whatever that, 6:30, 7 o'clock when it's dark. Wasn't that cold out. It was actually kind of warm. And I remember I went outside. We were like, what the fuck? And I just, the dog's out. We went outside, and the TV's on in the background, and the news is going on. Like, oh my God. There's literally pandemonium. Now, this is back when we live in next door to Nice and Easy. So there's like all this commotion, and people are like, what the fuck happened? This is like a worldwide event, because like something happened, a worldwide event, where just people were like, holy shit, this is the big one. Okay. Like, people were actually recognized that, okay, this was a big deal. This was, like, people were saying, was it God? It was this? Was it that? Was it aliens? I mean, people were going nuts. Now, keep in mind, I had this when I was a kid. So, whatever. But anyways, when I went outside, I remember looking over at the store, and it was just pandemonium. People were they were buying up gas, they were buying up food, and they were buying up stuff. And my mother and my father was sitting at the table. My mother was sitting, because she'd sit at like the head of the table. My father would sit over on the one side, and I'd sit on her. Basically, I'd sit on her left. My father would sit on her right, and it was a round table. So figure that out. And she was on the phone trying to see who was left, and it was like 1 or 2 people, and it was like we had this feeling of just being completely alone. Like, half the church was gone. More than half the church was gone. There's only like a handful of people left. And now the whole thing with the rapture is about being saved and Jesus and the whole nine. And it wasn't so much that we weren't saved. It was like there was supposed to be almost like a remnant, if you will. Like, there was supposed to be a remnant left kind of a deal, but like in a reverse sort of way, where it's like instead of the remnant being, separated, we were like thrust into the middle. Anyways, the whole point is, when I went outside, the dog, this is Ollie and Lucy, this is back in that time. They were kind of doing their thing, and I'm standing out by the pool, and there's a little bit of light. I mean, there's a lot of light coming over from the store, so it was dark, or getting dark, but it was still, you could still see because of all the lights, and just the commotion, and the lights of the cars, and all that stuff, and people were just riding up down the road, and it was crazy. It's pandemonium, like I said. Anyways, I remember looking down at the ground, and it was like something out of a movie. But it was like the grass was super green, and then I saw it. I really saw it. I really saw what was there. It was almost like the Matrix had gone and done like a 180, where the grass started to literally wither. Like, I had a vision, and the grass withered, and it was like dead, and everything around me was just decrepit. And it's like, for a split second, I saw the world as it really was. In other words, it was like this beautiful green grass and blue sky. It was all an illusion, and like I had a moment of clarity where I saw that it was actually a dead, rotting husk of a world. And the way it kind of transformed from one to the other, and then quickly went back, it was almost like I was envisioning a alternate universe for a split second. Same physicality, same areas, same everything, and everything was relatively the same, except for it went from green grass to a dead, desolate shithole. It was such a cool dream. I wish I could explain it, but but yeah, it just morphed, like it just right into the net, like from one to the other. And I'm like, holy shit, I wanted to go and explain to my mother, but she's on the phone talking to people, and you can't really interrupt her. And I'm like, this is important, and it was just one of those things where she, I don't know. Anyway, I got off on that little tangent. Anyways, back to this dream. I mean, it was to the point where I was disturbed by the very fact that watching this guy totally get destroyed and just abused that way. Part of me for a split second just like I panicked in my dream because it was like I was having these feelings almost like the Grinch, his heart grew 3 sizes. It's like my view of the individual had kind of changed for a split second, where it's like, yeah, he might be eventually coming after me, per se, like, politically, in certain things. But I had compassion for him beyond all of that. It was like there was this deep sorrow for his being an asshole. I can't describe that in any meaningful way because it's not that I hate the guy. I don't hate the guy. I dislike the guy. Make no mistake. But like when you see somebody literally being, well, taxidermied in a way, and then just completely like strung up, or he had like parts like removed, and keep in mind whoever did this to him, this hatred, just embodiment of hatred, this evil, this whatever the fuck it was that did this to him, like did every single little part while he was alive. Like they tried to keep him alive as long as they could, and did like little pieces here or there, and completely like rearranged parts of his body, like just like broke off ribs and just like just sawed off parts of it, and just like, I don't know, like completely rearranged bones in places, like sawed off his arm and then like surgically put it back on. So it was like there's no blood flow, so you got like this dead limp, arm kind of a thing. It was so weird. I can't describe how disturbing it was. Not like I've got a fucked up mind, but this was even beyond what I would deem fucked up. Which, believe me, that's saying something. Now, I'm not saying I'm like, whatever, but it was this thing like, yeah, I was looking at this individual's dead corpse thinking, the motherfucker deserved it. He's a piece of shit. I hope he dies, kind of a deal. And then when I visualized what had taken place over the amount of time, it's like you just can't help but have compassion for the son of a bitch, kind of a deal. Like, yeah, he's a stupid son of a bitch. He literally got what he deserved because he's a fucker. In the sense that he's that nasty of a human being that he deserved everything he got done to him. So it was almost like this wicked, evil entity, person, whatever you want to call it, was basically giving him exactly what he deserved. And it was more of on a like Christian level, where it's like God loved us where we are for who we are. In other words, like if God waited for us to get right and to figure it out, then nothing would get done. So he has to use flawed, broken people. It was kind of that thought process where it's like he has no intention of quote unquote coming to God, even though I think he has an understanding of God. I think he calls himself Christian, but he does horrible Ayn Rand bullshit, and that's all I'm going to say about that. And in other words, like I said, it was similar to Jigsaw, where it's like the things that had happened to him happened for a particular reason. In other words, the crimes committed against him were equal to what he was doing politically. The kind of bullshit that he was propagating to people. You know, kind of like stealing from the rich, or stealing from the poor, giving to the rich kind of a deal. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Again, I'm not going to say the person's name, but you could probably, figure it out. It doesn't take a speaker of truth to figure that out, if you know what I'm saying. That's all I'm going to say on that. And it was just this weird thing where it was like, it wasn't so much what was done to him, because I want to point that out again. I want to make sure it's abundantly clear, because I'm trying to express the feeling, and it's hard to express feeling in verbal terms, because what I saw happen to him is exactly what he does deserve. Which, I mean, on some level, we all do deserve. Like, none of us deserve heaven. None of us deserve God. None of us deserve Jesus. None of us deserve to be saved or born again. Or literally born again in the sense that if we die, we're resurrected. None of us deserve anything from God. Or even just anything in general, because we're all sons of bitches. And we all deserve probably equal measure. Like, seriously, if we got physically tortured based upon what we actually deserve, and we all have like a wicked, evil side to us, and if you were to manifest that wickedness into physical torture of the body, just how fucked up it would actually be, that's kind of what it was. So when I looked at him, I was like, he got what he deserved, because it was basically a physical manifestation of his heart, a physical manifestation of how corrupt his existence is, how corrupt his view of things are, and his body was physically corrupted to equal what he was in real life. So again, when I say he got what he deserved, it's not meant to be callous or cold. It was, okay, if you were to physically abuse someone through certain means and, whatever, like strapping a car battery to man's testicles and like frying him, okay, that's cute. That's like some sort of like, maybe, some sort of CIA thing where they kind of, interrogate people or some shit, or, stick little nails up underneath your fingernails. It wasn't like that. I mean, we're actually talking about physically removing body parts and manipulating them and chiseling like little grooves into the bone so that certain parts of the other things that was chiseled and shit could be slid, like parts of it can just slide on. All the while the guy's still alive. Like he's missing fingers, he's missing like entire hands, and entire arms. I don't even know what they did to legs. His legs were covered up. I didn't even get a chance to see those in the dream. And those were probably abused as well. But like for the most part, the face was essentially taxidermied to the point where it's like he's almost in pristine condition, even though there was no blood left. One of the biggest points in the dream was that there wasn't a single drop of blood found near anywhere around the body, in the body, on the body. He was essentially taxidermied. So he had been tortured to the point of, like, to the brink of death on numerous occasions. And, like, I don't know how long he had actually survived, like how long he was alive, but he had been alive for quite a while. At least 3/4 of the way of, like, what was physically done to him. I think he may have been partly taxidermied while he was still alive. So it's like he was tortured, essentially. And I don't condone torturing and kidnapping of political figures or anything like that, but this was a dream that I had, and the whole point was that I had compassion for this guy, even though, like I said, he got what he deserved. I have to be a better person than I am and not sit there and hate the guy. Even though he is a piece of shit. He's a literal piece of shit and deserved every single solitary thing he got. Again, I'm a piece of shit and I deserve probably equal on some levels. Okay? So it wasn't one of those things, but it was just, again, if you could say, okay, you've done this, this, and this that are bad, and that's on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe it's evil to, let's say, a level 8, which is, cutting swastikas in your nuts or something, or whatever. Whatever level 8 would be, you've reached that, so that's going to be perpetrated upon your physical body. Like the temple kind of a deal. Like the physical body. In other words, your sins in your heart are going to be represented on your physical body. That's kind of what it was. So that when people see you, they're going to be like, oh, he's a level 8. Or he's, not necessarily level 8, but you know what I mean? That kind of a concept where it's like, you see how fucked up it is. And it completely is... I don't know. Anyways. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to talk about this anymore because it freaked me out. Not, again, the visuals, but I don't know. It's like it was this moment of compassion for the guy, even though he's a son of a bitch. I can't explain it any better. Anyways, I don't want to talk about this anymore because I got stuff to do, and it's just it freaked me out. It freaked me out again. Not. Oh, I can't verbalize it. I'm not verbalizing it properly. Because it was, the dream itself didn't freak me out. The visuals didn't freak me out. They were creepy, but they didn't freak me out. What freaked me out is that it was like, I have to care about this guy. Not because I don't necessarily want to, but I have to be a better person than he is. I have to be better than that because I saw what happened to him. He got what he deserved, but it was just such a horrible thing that I have to be the one, because he's not going to change his thoughts and his minds and his opinions and his beliefs because he thinks he's right. I have to be better than... Almost like when Jesus was hanging on the cross and he's like, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. It was similar to that, and you have this moment of compassion where it's like you just weep for the guy because he's such a piece of shit. I mean, it's almost what it was. That's almost exactly what that was. And I don't really. It's fucked up. It's gonna fuck up my day because I'm gonna be thinking about this all day, and I don't know where to go with that. I really don't know where to go with that. Anyways, I'm done. That's it. I hope I verbalized it properly, and I don't think I did because it's just there was a deep emotional feeling that you cannot express. Words don't do it justice. And even if you could see the visuals that I saw, unless you had that moment where it clicked and you're like, God wants me to forgive this guy even though he's a fucking asshole fucker. Anyways, you know what? I'm done. Fuck you.